Welcome to part 3 of our video series on flushometer valves. In this final segment, we will be applying what we've learned in parts 1 and 2. We will start with a 2-story building that has water closet flush valves on both floors, making sure that we correctly assign water supply fixture units to each valve. In that drawing, we will be introduced to the concept of giving flush valves two values. One number will represent the demand for the branch, and the second number will represent the demand for the building. The second drawing that we will work through will have 3 floors, so we will have 3 separate branches, making sure that every flush valve is properly labeled with a fixture unit value. The final drawing we will work through will be 3 stories and will have both water closet and urinal flush valves on each floor. Hopefully, after watching the video, you will have a stronger understanding of how to assign fixture units to flushometer valves. Starting our discussion with this drawing, we see that we have a 2-story building with water closet flush valves on each floor. Counting them up, we see that we have 5 flush valves per floor. When we work with multiple branches, it is helpful to assign each flush valve a branch value and a building value. If we do this, it will ensure that the pipe is sized properly. Remember, all water pipes are sized based on fixture units. So if we don't correctly label the fixture units, we will have incorrect pipe sizes. So what we want to do is write 2 values on top of each other. The branch values will be the top number. So if we go to the second floor, the most remote fixture in the building will be the P1, which is a water closet with a flushometer valve. And we simply write a 40 next to that fixture. The building values will be the bottom number. So near the same flush valve or the same toilet, we write a 40. So just to go over it one more time, every flush valve will have 2 numbers by it. Right now we are only looking at the most remote flush valve in the building. Second floor all the way to the left. The 40 in the red box represents that flush valve's value on the top floor branch piping. The 40 in the green box represents that same fixture, the fixture's value on the building. So if we were to go way back to the street service, the meter, and the building supply. So 40 over 40 for that first flush valve. The next flush valve on that branch will be labeled a 30 because that is our sequence. That's the decreasing scale that we learned in the first 2 videos. Water closet flush valves always start at 40, and then the next one in line is a 30, and then a 20, a 15, a 10, and so on. So we label that second most remote flush valve on the top floor branch a 30. We also label a 30 for the building because it is the second most remote in the entire building. Continuing, we label the next flush valve a 20 for the branch and a 20 for the building. The next one will be a 15 for the branch and a 15 for the building. And the last one on the top floor branch will be labeled 10 for the branch and 10 for the building. We can see that both top and bottom numbers here are the same. And that's very common for the top floor of a multi-story building. The flush valves, starting from the most remote, will always be 40-40, 30-30, 20-20, and then so on. Going down to the second floor, the next floor down, which would be your first floor, we have a new branch. Every time we have a new branch, we have to go to the most remote part of that branch and start sizing. Start labeling fixture units. Every new branch starts over with the highest possible value for the category of flushometers. We still have water closet flush valves on a new branch, so we start the top numbers all over at 40. The bottom number simply continues wherever you left off with your other building numbers. If we look at the top floor, we can see that we have already labeled flush valves for the building value 40, 30, 20, 15, and 10. When we get to 10 on the bottom numbers, every other flush valve in that building will be a 10. So the first floor branch piping, the farthest, most remote flush valve, will be labeled 40/10, meaning on the branch, its value is 40, and for the building, its value is 10. Always remember branches are sized full size, meaning the highest possible values that you can give them. From this point, we work back to the right, going back to the building supply and the water service. The next highest possible number for a branch value would be 30, so we label it 30. And like we mentioned, once you're at 10 for the building numbers, the rest of them will be labeled 10. The next flush valve will be a 20 for the branch and 10 for the building. Continuing, it'll be a 15 for the branch and a 10 for the building. And then the last one on the first floor branch will be a 10 over a 10. At this point, we have all the flush valves labeled with their proper fixture unit values. Now we can go back to the most remote part of the building and start giving every pipe segment a fixture unit value. So on the second floor, all the way to the left, we will see that that first segment of piping up there will be valued at 40 fixture units because it serves one flush valve that we've given a value of 40. We work to the right. We see that we pick up another toilet flush valve. We've labeled it a 30 for the branch. So 40 plus 30 would be 70. We pick up another flush valve labeled 20 for the branch. So 70 plus 20 would be 90. We continue. We pick up another one. We've labeled it 15. 90 plus 15 will be 105. And the last flush valve on the second floor, we've labeled it 10. So 105 plus 10 equals 115. So the top floor, the second floor, branch piping will be valued at 115 fixture units. We would size it for 115 fixture units. From there, we work down the riser, trying to get back to the street service. Before we get there, we see another branch going to the left, serving the first floor. We go to the end of it, and we start labeling pipe segments. So again, we're on a branch, so we use branch numbers, which are the top numbers, the numbers in the red boxes. So that pipe segment is worth 40 fixture units. We work back to the right. We pick up another flush valve. We've labeled it a 30 for the branch value. 40 plus 30 is 70. The next one we've labeled 20, so 70 plus 20 equals 90. The next one is a 15, so 90 plus 15, 105. And the last one on the first floor, we've labeled it 10, 105 plus 10 equals 115. Now at this point, we want to be careful. The only pipe segment that we have to give a fixture unit value to is the building supply and the street service. It's a very common mistake for people to take the 115 from the second floor, the 115 from the first floor, and say incorrectly that the building has 230 fixture units on it. The proper way to do it is to use the bottom numbers, which we've called the building numbers. And if we use those fixture unit values, we come up with a different answer. We come up with 165. And that is the correct answer. This building has 165 fixture units of demand. Think about it this way. If we didn't have a 2-story building with 5 flush valves on each floor, but we had a building with 10 flush valves just on one floor, so it's the same number of fixtures, it's just one floor instead of 2 floors, and all 10 of those toilet flush valves were in a line, we would have labeled them, starting with the most remote, 40, 30, 20, 15, and then 10, 10, 10, 10, 10, and 10. So that would have been a building on one floor. That's how we would have labeled them. If we added up all those numbers, it's 165. So that's the advantage of using 2 numbers for every flush valve. So 165 is the sum of all the bottom numbers in this drawing that we're looking at. And that represents the building load values. What about the pipe that we're pointing to with the little call out there? We're on the second floor. It's the middle flush valve. We've labeled it a 20 over 20, meaning that for the branch piping on the second floor, that flush valve has a value of 20. The bottom number, 20, means that for the building, that flush valve is worth 20 fixture units. But what about the pipe that the arrow is pointing to? It's the pipe in the wall coming off of the branch down through the wall, supplying the flush valve with water. How many fixture units do we size that for? How many fixture units would we label that pipe? Well, if we go back to table 610.10, we'll remember that it said a pipe that serves only one flushometer valve has a value of 40 fixture unit. So every single drop that serves a single water closet flush valve will always be assigned 40 water supply fixture units. So every one of those water pipes in the wall serving a single flush valve is always worth 40 fixture units. So in this example, we have a 3-story building. So we will have 3 separate branches, and we will have only water closet flush valves. Make sure that we remember to do our top and bottom numbers for each fixture. Again, branch values will be the top number. Building values will be the bottom number. Starting at the most remote flush valve in this building, we have a water closet. So we give it a value of 40 for the branch and 40 for the building. We do that because it is the most remote on the 3rd floor branch, and it is the most remote on the entire building. We work to the left, we come to each fixture, and we give it a top and bottom number. So the next water closet flush valve in line would be a 30 for the branch and a 30 for the building. The next one would be a 20 for the branch and a 20 for the building. And then finally, the last one would be a 15 for the branch and a 15 for the building. We go down to the 2nd floor. We have a 40 for the branch. Remember, every time you come to a new branch, we start all over with the highest possible number. Water closets always start their branch labeling at 40 fixture units. The building numbers pick up wherever you left off. So if we go back to the 3rd floor, we see that for the building numbers, we've already labeled 40, 30, 20, 15. So the next number in sequence is 10 fixture units. So that flush valve is a 40 over a 10, meaning it has a value of 40 for the branch that it is on, and it has a value of 10 for the building. The next one would be a 30 for the branch and a 10 for the building. And the last one on this branch would be a 20 over a 10. Now there is another water closet flush valve on this floor, but it's not served from this branch that we're looking at. It's on its own branch coming off of the main riser. So we will size that one like it's all by itself. So a 40 over a 10. All we have left is the 1st floor. So the most remote fixture is a water closet. It's a new branch, so the numbers start over. So we do a 40 over a 10. And then a 30 over 10, 20 over 10, and 15 over 10. At this point, all of the flush valves have their fixture unit values assigned to them. Now we can go back to the 3rd floor, pipe segment number 1, and we can start assigning fixture units for every single pipe segment. So starting at number 1, we use the branch values for the fixtures. We give pipe segment number 1 a value of 40 fixture units. We work to the left. We pick up a flush valve that has a value of 30 on the branch. So 40 plus 30 equals 70 fixture units. We pick up another water closet flush valve. It has a branch value of 20. So 70 plus 20 gives us 90 fixture units. And then number 4 has a branch value of 15. But number 4 is pointing to the pipe in the wall that serves a single flush valve. And from our previous videos and discussions, we know that anytime you have a pipe serving just one water closet flush valve, it will always be valued at 40 fixture units. And if you're wondering, well, how can that be? Just go back to table 610.10, read the chart, the part of the table that talks about water closet flushometer valves, and where it says one water closet flush valve, it'll tell us that it's always worth 40 fixture units. Number 5 is the branch that serves the entire third floor. If we take 90 plus the 15, which is the branch value, we come up with 105. Second floor, pipe segment number 6. We use the branch numbers, the top numbers, the numbers in the red box. So that pipe would be sized for 40 fixture units. Work to the left, we pick up another water closet. We've labeled it a 30 for the branch. So 40 plus 30 gives us 70. Last fixture on this branch is a water closet. We've labeled it 20. So 70 plus 20 equals 90. So pipe segment 8 would be sized for 90 fixture units. Pipe segment 5 was sized for 105. We bring those two together at number 10. We want to be careful. We don't want to say it's 195 fixture units. It's not. The proper way to do this is bring the 105 down from the third floor, and then coming from pipe segment 8, which has 90 fixture units, we only carry into the building, riser or main, a portion of those fixture units, a portion of the 90. What portion of the 90 do we carry forward? We carry forward the building values, so the numbers in the green box. So we only carry forward 30 more fixture units, and that gives us a total of 135 at spot 10. Number 9 is a branch by itself serving one water closet flush valve, so we call it a 40. But what about number 11? We don't take 135 plus 40 and say that it's 175 there. We only carry 10 of those fixture units from spot 9 into the riser and come up with the correct answer for number 11 of 145 fixture units. First floor branch, most remote, pipe segment 12. We've labeled it a 40, so it's 40 fixture units. Now, spots 13 and 14, we have to be a little bit careful. We label them 30, 10, 20, 10, but they are kind of on a sub-branch by themselves, so we have to make sure we use the highest possible numbers for flush valves serving water closets. So number 13, even though it's labeled 30 over 10, we have to give that specific pipe a value of 40 because it is similar to other spots that we've talked about. A single pipe serving a single flushometer valve on a water closet will always be 40 fixture units. And then when we get to number 14, we see that the two fixtures are labeled 30, 10, 20, 10, but if we ignore that for 1 minute and just look at simply what it serves, we see that the pipe segment 14 serves two water closet flush valves. And going back to table 610.10, we see that when you have two water closet flushometer valves, you will always consider those to be a 40 and a 30, which means that number 14 in this example is 70 fixture units. So when we take those up into the branch and we get to pipe segment 16, now we can go back and use our fixture units in the red boxes, the branch values, the 40, 30, 20. And we come up with an answer of 90 fixture units. Again, 90 fixture units came from the top numbers for that branch, the 40, 30, 20. Sometimes it'll the mistake will be made that we take 70 fixture units from number 14 and 40 fixture units from number 12, and we incorrectly say that spot 16 has 110. And if you think about it for a second, you'll realize what's wrong with saying that there's 110 fixture units at number 16. Because you would be saying, in essence, that spot 16 has a 40, a 40, and a 30. Again, 40, 40, 30 gives 110. But nowhere in our code does it say that the sequence is 40, 40, 30. It says 40, 30, 20, 15, 10. So that's how you work through a situation like that, and it gives an example of how water closet flush valve fixture units can start high and progressively get smaller. So 16 is 90 fixture units. 15, we've labeled it a 15 over 15, but it's a pipe serving a single flush valve, so we know that it's a 40. The 15 is what we carry up into the branch. We add it to the 90, and we have a value of 105. Now, to get 18 and 19, we don't just take 145 from spot 11 and 105 from spot 17 and say that we have 250. We have to only carry in the proper amount from number 17. The proper amount would be the bottom numbers. If we quickly look at it, the bottom numbers would be 10, 20, 30, 40. So of the 105 at spot 17, we only carry in 40 more of those. So spot 18 and 19 would be 185 fixture units. So let's go back and look at a couple of these tricky spots in this drawing. On the top floor, the third floor where we had pipe segment 3, 4, and 5 coming together, we had 90 at spot 3, 40 at spot 4. And if you're wondering why it's a 40 when we labeled it 15 over 15, well, we have to go back to table 610.10 and remember that that table tells us that if we only have one flush valve on a pipe, which is what we're dealing with, its value is always going to be 40. So looking at the table, one flush valve is always worth 40 fixture units. The fixture units change when you get up into the branch. So the value of the flushometer in our example, it becomes a 15 when it enters the T above the fixture, right where the red arrow is pointing. So think about it like this. That water closet is labeled 15 over 15. 15 for the branch, 15 for the building. But realistically, it starts as a 40 because it's a water pipe that serves only one flush valve. The reason it changes is because there are 3 other flush valves more remote than it. And when I say more remote, I mean more remote from the water meter. So if we go to the end of that branch, we've already given the far right-hand flush valve the value of 40. And once we do that, no other flush valve on this branch can be called a 40. We've even given another flush valve the value of 30. So now no other flush valve on this branch can be called a 30. We've even given a third flush valve the value of 20. So now no other flush valve on this particular branch can take the value of 20. So we've used up the 40, the 30, and the 20. So back to our flushometer that we're talking about, it's a 15 over 15. The pipe that actually serves it is 40 fixture units. And it's 40 fixture units all the way up to the point where it gets to the T, again where the red arrow is at. At that point, it takes its spot in the sequence, which is 15. And that's how water closet and urinal flush valves can change their values as you work back towards the meter. So what about the top floor branch where we have 105 fixture units? Just to explain it one more time, pipe segment 3 is 90 fixture units. Pipe segment 4 is 40 fixture units. But we're saying that the grand total for the top floor is 105. We know that we need to use the branch values, the branch numbers, to get that answer. So we want to do 90 plus 15 gives us 105. That is the correct answer. A common mistake that is made is that people will use 90 plus 40 because they're just working in that general direction back towards the meter. They see 90, they see 40, they add them together, and they say that pipe segment 5 is 130 fixture units, and that's incorrect. That's how people come up with more fixture units than they actually have in a building. So always use your branch values and building values correctly. So this brings us to our last drawing that we'll do in this video. Again, we have a 3-story building. So we have 3 separate branches. But this time we have water closet flushometer valves and we have urinal flushometer valves. So we have to learn to use both of them in the same drawing. Same thing applies. We're going to do branch values for the top number, and bottom numbers will be the building values. You always start at the most remote and work back towards the meter. So 3rd floor, right hand side, we have a water closet flush valve. We're going to call it 40 fixture units. That's the branch value for that flush valve. It's also going to be a 40 for the building because obviously it's the most remote in the entire building. We work to the left. We come to another water closet flush valve. We use the numbers in sequence, so it will be 30 over 30. 30 for the branch, 30 for the building. The next fixture in line is a urinal with a flush valve. So we use the highest possible numbers that can be given to a urinal, which would be 20 for the branch and 20 for the building. The last fixture on the 3rd floor is another urinal flush valve. We use the numbers in sequence for urinal flush valves, and it'll be a 15 for the branch and a 15 for the building. We go down to the 2nd floor, the most remote part of that piping. We have a water closet with a flush valve. Remember, we always reset branch numbers. So it starts with the 40, the bottom number, the building number, follows in sequence wherever you left off for the building numbers previously. But be careful, you follow or continue wherever the category of flush valves left off. So if we look at the 3rd floor, we have 2 water closets that we've labeled for building numbers. We've labeled 40 and 30. So the 2nd floor, the next water closet will be a 20. Now, it can be confusing. Some people will say, well, our building numbers are 40, 30, 20, 15. The next one in line for a toilet should be a 10. And I understand that, but the correct way to do it is to look at the two categories independently. We don't mix them together. So water closets are done all by themselves. Urinals are done all by themselves. So back to spot number 6, it needs to be labeled 40/20. Working to the left, another water closet flush valve. We just follow the sequence, the next step. So the next step in the branch numbers would be 30. The next step for the building numbers would be 15. And then we have a urinal on that branch. So it's the only urinal on that branch piping, so the top number has to be the highest number available, which is 20. The building number, again, is wherever we left off in the sequence of numbers for the category of urinal flush valves. The top floor had 2 urinal flush valves. The building values for those 2 fixtures was 20, 15. So the next number in sequence for that category of fixtures would be a 10. Remember, urinals are 20, 15, 10, 8, and 5. Water closets are 40, 30, 20, 15, 10. And then we have water closet by itself coming off the riser. It's its own branch, so we'll call it a 40/10. And then we have the first floor branch left. This time it's a urinal at the farthest end of it, at the most remote part of the branch. Branch values start over. Urinal highest possible value is 20, so we label it 20. The building value continues wherever we left off. If we go back up to the second floor, we see a urinal with a bottom number of 10. So the next one that we assign has to be the next number in sequence, which for urinals is an 8. And then we have water closets, so 40/10, 30/10, and 20/10. At this point, all of the flush valves have their proper, correct fixture units labeled to them. And I'd like to give a helpful hint here. If we look at just the floors, don't worry about how the things are piped in, just look at the floor levels. And if we add up all the building numbers for each floor and make a note of that number off to the side, we can use those to our advantage. So starting with the top floor, using the bottom numbers, do not use the top numbers, use the bottom numbers, we come up with 105. The next floor down, using the bottom numbers, we add them up, and we come up with 55 fixture units. And then the first floor, bottom numbers, we come up with 38. Now what we can do here is we can take those values for each floor, we can add them up, and whatever the sum of those numbers is our building total demand. It's the total water supply demand for the entire building. What that does is it gives us something to shoot for. It's our goal. It's a benchmark. So when we bring all of the other branches back together, we need to add them up and come up with 198. So let's see if we can do that. So back up to the third floor, most remote part, pipe segment number 1. Serves 1 water closet flush valve. We've labeled it at 40/40, meaning 40 for the branch. So that spot would be worth 40 fixture units. We work to the left. We pick up another water closet flush valve. We've labeled it a 30 for the branch. So 40 plus 30 equals 70. We pick up a urinal flush valve. We've labeled it a 20 for the branch value. So 70 plus 20 equals 90. And then number 4, it's a urinal flush valve. We've labeled it a 15/15, but the number 4 bubble is pointing to the pipe in the wall. So we have to use the highest possible value for a urinal, which is 20. Number 5, we take 90 fixture units plus the value for the urinal flush valve, the branch value, 15. We add them together, and it gives us 105 fixture units for the top floor. Second floor, most remote, pipe segment number 6. We use top numbers always for branch piping. So that pipe segment is worth 40 fixture units. We work to the left. We pick up another water closet. We've labeled it a 30 over 15. So we want to use the top number, the branch number. So 40 plus 30 gives us 70. Pick up a urinal. We've labeled it a 20 over 10. We want to use the top number because we're looking at branch piping. So 70 plus 20 equals 90 fixture units. We would size pipe segment 8 for 90 fixture units. But what about number 10? We're bringing 105 down. We're bringing 90 across. We don't want to accidentally say that number 10 is 195 fixture units. That would mean that we only have 3 fixture units left in the entire building, and we know that we have more than that on the bottom floor. So the proper way to do this is bring the 105 down from the third floor. We're bringing 90 across from part of the second floor, but we only carry into the riser the bottom numbers. So of the 90 fixture units at spot 8, we only carry in 45 of those fixture units. And that gives us a value of 150 fixture units at spot number 10 because we use the bottom numbers in the green boxes. We still have one more water closet flush valve to pick up from this floor. It's on its own branch. The branch piping would be valued at 40 fixture units. But again, we don't carry all 40 of those fixture units into the riser and say that spot number 11 is 190. We only carry the bottom building value into the riser. So it'll be spot 10 is 150. Spot 9 is 40 for the branch, but we only carry 10 of those into the main. So number 11 would be 160 fixture units. Now we have the first floor to finish. Pipe segment 12 is a urinal with a flush valve. We're sizing a branch. We use the top number in the red box, so we size it for 20 fixture units. Number 13 is a water closet flush valve. We're sizing branch piping. We use the top number, so we call it a 40. Number 14, we've picked up another water closet flush valve. We've labeled it 30 for the branch, so number 14 is 70 fixture units. And then 16, we will have 2 water closet flush valves and 1 urinal flush valve. The grand total will be 90 fixture units. 15, one last time, it's a pipe in a wall serving a single water closet flush valve. We've labeled the fixture 20 over 10, but that's for the branch piping and the building piping. This is just the pipe in the wall serving that one and only flush valve. So we have to call it a 40. It becomes a 20 when it gets up into the branch piping. If we take the 90 plus the 20 for the branch value, we have a grand total for number 17 would be 110 fixture units. We would size that pipe, that branch pipe, for 110 fixture units, but we only carry 38 of those into the main or into the riser, add it to number 11, and we have 198 fixture units like we wanted. So that concludes our 3-part series on flushometer valves and how to properly give them a fixture unit value. Again, this was all based on the UPC. That's the plumbing code that we use here in Minnesota. But to my knowledge, the UPC, any state that uses the UPC, uses the same methodology for water pipe sizing. So hopefully this helps you. Hopefully it gives you the confidence to size water piping and not be afraid of the 40, 30, 20, 15, 10 for the toilet flush valves and the 20, 15, 10, 8, and 5 for the urinal flush valves. So again, thank you for watching, and hopefully we'll see you again.